It's time to answer the question, what do you do if you are crying all the time? Okay, this is the video to watch. Let's get it.
I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumedh Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach. I'm a positive psychologist. I help you feel better and perform better, okay? Today we're talking about what do you do if you're crying all the time, okay? First and foremost, if you are crying all the time, I'd highly recommend you actually go and speak with a physician or a therapist to make sure that there's no other, things off in regards to you crying all the time, okay? Again, sometimes if you do go to a therapist, they will diagnose you, okay? You might have a combination of depression and anxiety or just depression, or you've just been through something very difficult and you're at this grieving period. In cases of grief, it's actually very individual, so there's no set timeline or timetable for you to follow in terms of your grief, right? So for some people, it takes 6 to 8 weeks. For others, it takes months and some even years. Okay, so I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that this is the grieving period, and if you're past the grieving period, you're normal, and if you're not, then you're abnormal. Then there's something off about the logic, okay? A lot of us respond to emotions differently, and a lot of us also need help with emotional regulation because we haven't been taught how to handle our emotions. Now, first of all, we got to understand the cultural implications of crying, okay? Crying is a release, so you got to understand that. If your body's constantly wanting to release that, and it's a self-soothing mechanism, basically, crying, right? That means you're going to have to administer other self-soothing mechanisms like getting enough sleep, resting, taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, okay, exercising, meditating, these kinds of just, well-being things, being well, okay, really looking after yourself and not ignoring the signs anymore of what's really going on underneath the surface, because clearly there's something going on that is underneath the surface, okay, something that you have not explored yet, something that you're not sharing. This is actually a good time to do a little bit of self-love work and then eventually doing some inner work and getting started on inner work, because that's really what is going to help you and shape you to stop crying, okay? Now, there's quick, obviously instant ways that you can stop crying, one of which is just grounding yourself and breathing. So you can tilt your head back, and that way the tears won't fall out like this, but because of gravity's on your side now. You simply breathe and you deepen your breath. You get into a parasympathetic state rather than a sympathetic state, which means you get into rest and digest. Okay, and when you slow down your breathing, you're gonna feel more relaxed, because a lot of the times what happens is the tears fall from us being in a very sympathetic state or fight or flight, okay? So if you can relax yourself during the time of you crying and just basically you allow your tears to do what they need to do. Now, some people think that it's suppressing if they don't allow themselves to cry whenever they feel an urge to cry. That's not necessarily the case, okay? Let's say you have a very important interview or a meeting and you feel like crying. There is a benefit to you watching a funny movie or doing something to change your state or going for a walk or just jumping up and down, right? Then your logical, rational mind isn't really going to chime in much with that, because now the subconscious state has also changed, okay? You got to understand, why are you sad, okay? Is this really sadness underneath the crying, right? What is the emotion underneath the crying, right? Is it really sadness, or is it fear that is causing sadness? You're going to have to get more specific about what it is. What is the root cause of the tears? And you may say that I don't know, and I don't know where it's coming from. This is why you need a second opinion, a third opinion, sometimes even fourth opinion, just to get an understanding of why this is happening. I remember when I was very young, I was crying all the time, and I didn't know why I was crying, right? I was like 10 years old, and I was brought into a therapist's office, I remember. And, after a while, he gave me his conclusion of why he thought that I was crying all the time. And that was his conclusion. And after a while, once I got to that conclusion, I wasn't really crying all the time because I knew what the reason was, right? And it was a fear. Okay, it was a fear that was associated with the sadness. It was a fear of loss. So once I understood that, then I actually stopped crying. I wasn't crying all the time. That's a very personal example, but I hope you understand what I mean by you getting to the actual crux of like, okay, maybe life is pushing me to change some things around right now. Okay, maybe my life is actually like I'm crying all the time as a signal from my body to do something. Okay? Because it is a release, because it is a self-soothing, maybe you need other self-soothing mechanisms to actually make up for that. Maybe you're not self-soothing yourself enough and the self-care is lacking, and crying is the only way that you can experience self-care. I would start to keep a trigger journal of all the things that make you cry or are making you cry. Okay, and just get really specific about it. Let's bring in your logical mind a little bit instead of just that state of like, whatever is causing that. Clearly, there's something in your thoughts that are creating those emotions. And then its response is these tears. Now, this can be tears of joy as well, okay? Bittersweet tears as well. Through a healing process that's completely normal. A lot of times when you're going through intense, healing deep core wounds and childhood wounds and traumas and things like that, hey, crying is a natural process, is a part of that. Okay? So you might have suddenly realized something very, very deep and profound, and almost to a sense where you can't really explain using words. Sometimes tears will come out, right? Also beware, because tears are also okay, it could be like a Satori moment, right? So suddenly in the moment, you just let go. I think one of the quickest ways to get out of crying is through actual genuine laughter. Now it looks weird when when you're laughing so hard that you start crying, right? That's a different kind of energy as opposed to just merely crying. And a lot of people, because they're ashamed of crying, or they feel like they're weak or a pussy or whatever, boys shouldn't cry or girls shouldn't cry, or whatever it is, your idea, right? Based on crying, that I can't be vulnerable, it's not okay to be seen as weak when other people see me, I can't cry around other people. All these different thoughts, right? They'll get you to experience a kind of rigidity, where the moment you go inwards, you'll feel unsafe. Like, I feel out of control, like, I don't know what's gonna happen, that kind of feeling. Okay, this is your own archetype or your own rigidity kind of causing this, okay? So it's from your own mental pattern that is causing this resistance towards the crying, which is making it worse, right? There's pain and then there's secondary pain. So you might be experiencing some pain right now, but the storyline that you're attaching to that pain might be giving you more intense levels of pain, which is then again releasing a lot of tears, okay? So they're different tiers, two different tiers, okay? Let's go, okay? Master wordplay right here, okay? But level one is like a little tier that just drops down. It's like maybe a specific moment, you watched a movie or something, or it's just like something very heartwarming that you've seen. Okay, there's that level. But then there's another level of crying where you're like, you can't stop crying and you're just bawling your eyes. It's like ugly crying, right? Your makeup is dripping down your face. Like that level of crying, okay? So we must look at this as a spectrum, and we must understand the frequency of how long it's happening, how much it's happening. And I can't tell you all the answers based right away on what your particular situation is, but I would just get a second opinion. I would get, on a consultation call, on a counseling call, on a positive psychology session with me, and then we can actually pinpoint what is the root cause of this, and that will actually cut it to some extent. It'll stop it to some extent, okay? A lot of the people who come and see me, they don't come back because they don't need to, okay? Because they have that breakthrough moment and they can be on their way. So if that's you, if you're looking for that, shoot me a message. I'm gonna teach you how to fish. I'm not gonna just be a fisherman for you and do it for you. This is not do it yourself. This is us doing it together. Okay, remember. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. My poor mam's sick back there. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Let's get it.